It's Friday! Woot woot! Fridays are always a reason to celebrate, but isn't it especially true in the summer? Maybe not as true for those of you who live in the South, where you have really hot days and then really nice days when those of us in the tundra are freezing our tails off. Well, here in Minnesota, we only get a few months of summer weather, so we're grateful for every day that doesn't require a parka. On that note, summer is the time of year when many of us like to take a bit more time away from work. But let me ask you this. Do you feel guilty when you take time off from your 9 to 5? Do you worry what your team will think? Do you worry about how much work will be waiting when you get back? I know what that is like. But today we are going to cover that stinky nonsense in some of God's wonderfully fragrant and life-giving truth. Before I get too far into the episode, though, I wanted to share some exciting news with you. Over the past year, God has really been working in my life. I'm doing things I never would have guessed I would be doing. He is challenging and growing me in more ways than I can count. In addition to launching this show, He also planted a seed in my heart to seek certification in Christian life coaching. Now, I've been coaching and mentoring people for over 16 years as a leader, but this is something that is completely different. Christian life coaching is all about seeking God's will for our lives and partnering with the Holy Spirit to take actionable steps toward positive growth and transformational change. The certification process was such an amazing experience, and I can proudly say that I am now a certified Christian life coach. I truly feel called to help women become fueled by God's grace and free from people-pleasing so that they can create more time for the things that matter most. I want to share in the victory He has shown me. If you want to see Spirit-led change in your life, head over to gracefilledleader.com to check out my services. I am so excited to see what God has in store for your life. Welcome to the Grace-Filled Leader Podcast. Do you want better work-life balance? Do you get stuck in patterns of perfectionism and people-pleasing? Have you always been an overachiever, but never really felt good enough, no matter how much outward success you achieve? Hi, I'm Tanya, a wife, mom, leader, Christian life coach, and Jesus lover. For most of my life, I tried to find worthiness through achievement, but no matter how hard I worked or how much I achieved, I never felt like I was enough. I was left burned out, empty, and exhausted. I had no time or energy for myself or my family. I needed balance. I needed peace. I finally started to live like an unconditionally loved daughter of the King, saved by grace. This faith-led podcast will teach you self-care routines and practical leadership strategies to help you navigate life and leadership. If you're ready to stop people-pleasing and start living and leading God's way, this podcast is for you. Unbutton your blazers and roll up your sleeves, sister friends. It's time to get after it. Not today, Satan. That is what I am declaring. Yep, I said it. The enemy likes to get in our heads and take advantage of our areas of vulnerability. One of those areas for me is guilt. Guilt over taking time away from my day job. Well, this year, I am binding up and casting out that stinky nonsense. I've been a little more, quote, selfish this summer. In reality, it's not as much selfish as it is smart and healthy. But anyway, I decided that I was going to be done with feeling guilty about taking time off of work. And when I say work, I mean my day job, my 9 to 5 leadership role. For decades, I allowed that stinky thinking rob me and my family of time spent together. But more often, even if together, time spent in which I was able to be present. If I wasn't physically at work, chances are I would be thinking about work, feeling anxious about work, or checking emails to try to avoid feeling anxious about work. which of course had the opposite effect. It really was all self-imposed. I placed most of that pressure on myself. Well, this past year, and all praise be to God, I am finding real freedom from that guilt. I decided I was going to take more time away. I took a week off in June, and now I just finished taking a week off in July. In the past, even if I had taken time off, I would have felt compelled to use it to do work around the house or other projects that I don't otherwise get time for. Well, not this year. For the first time, I spent both of those weeks at our lake cabin. 1 week in June was almost completely spent alone, and this past week was spent with my family. Both were fantastic. I loved my time alone in June, as it allowed me a few days to really focus on building this side gig of mine, while also taking each day as it came. This past week, I didn't accomplish as much as I had intended in regards to the podcast and coaching, but I had the blessing of having several days with my kids. That is something that is becoming a rarer commodity as they're in their 20s and busy with their own lives. As the week started to come to an end, I started to have some guilt and self-sabotaging thoughts try to sneak in. But I stopped and thought, no, not today, Satan. This week was exactly as it was meant to be. If I had worked more, it would have meant less time with the kids and less time just getting recharged through some rest. The enemy also likes to sneak in with the Sunday scaries. You know, that nauseous feeling you get the day before returning back to work? Well, when it sneaks in, I'm just calling it out for what it is and rejecting it in the name of Jesus. I am not going to let the enemy rob me of joy like I have so many times in the past. The boundaries and systems I've implemented, with God's help of course, have really allowed me to just shut the door on that guilt and anxiety. I know I will have work waiting for me, but worrying about it isn't going to change that. And I have a process now to prioritize and get through the work. I'm going to focus on the gratitude I have for having had the blessing of time away for myself and with my family. The truth is, it will make me a better leader. It will help me to pour from a cup that is full rather than one that is empty. I mean, what exactly was I accomplishing before by being some kind of martyr around my time? I thought it would help people trust and respect me more because it shows I'm a hard worker and committed to my role. Now, there's a point to which that is true. There are certainly people that tend toward the side of taking advantage of flexibilities that come with administrative roles instead, which can result in a perceived lack of presence and commitment. I am not advocating for that approach at all. I firmly believe it is important to work with integrity, keep your commitments, and be thorough in your work. But when you go overboard to the point that you rarely allow yourself the freedom to be away in body and in mind, at some point you are doing a disservice to those you lead. First of all, you are not being a role model for healthy boundaries and for healthy work-life integration. And I'm sorry to tell you, from personal experience, if you are subconsciously counting on an equal return on that investment, that others will be willing to make a similar level of self-sacrifice if you were to ask or expect it of them, you might be sorely disappointed. And if you dig deep enough to find that a motive such as that exists for you, I would challenge you to consider where that comes from. Are you doing what you're doing out of self-promotion, approval seeking, or as a sort of currency to be exchanged at some point? You may eventually find yourself coming up empty, if your purpose for serving is not grounded in actual service that comes from a place of being filled with grace, such that your cup is full and spilling over and allowing you to serve and be grace-giving. It is important that you take time to fill your own cup with the goodness of God and His gift of rest. Don't feel guilty for doing that. Commit to doing good work, but with that comes time of rest and recovery so that you can give it your best, so that your yeses can be your best yeses. So if you find yourself in need of a break, if you're running on empty and you need to recharge, consider taking some time away. Do it without guilt and protect it. Be grateful for the moments you get that you will never regret taking. I will never regret having taken time away to hang out in my comfies with my kiddos. Those are precious moments I would give anything to have more of. It gave me pause to just witness the amazing human beings that the Lord allowed me the honor of raising. We've had our challenges, but gosh, He is blessing me through them. I'm so very proud to be their mom. And I'm pretty tickled that they actually wanted to hang out with their mama for a week. So I'm going to say it again. If you feel guilty for taking time away from work, reject that line of thinking as the enemy taking advantage of your vulnerabilities. Just take Jesus' words from Matthew 16:23, when, without knowing it, Peter was speaking for Satan, and Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man." And with that, I'm going to end by wishing you a grace and faith-filled Friday. Toodles, my friends. I pray this episode blessed you, spoke to you, or encouraged you in some way. If so, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. That's the only way for me to know if you're enjoying the show. Nothing blesses me more than to hear from you. Also, come on over to our free Facebook community. This is a great place for us to support one another on our faith and leadership journeys. You can find the link to the group in the show notes or go to gracefilledleader.com/community. If you have questions or content ideas for the show, please send me a message on SpeakPipe or via email. Go to gracefilledleader.com/contact and leave a written or voice recorded message. I would love to know how I can best serve you on the podcast. Now to Him who can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Until next time, my friends, God bless.